The morning at Ironclad Industries began like any other. Employees hurried to their desks, clutching steaming coffee cups as the persistent ringing of telephones mingled with the steady hum of office chatter. In the midst of this organized chaos sat Elliot Sinclair, the 42-year-old CEO in his glass-walled corner office, poring over quarterly reports with a meticulous eye. Elliot wasn't merely a boss, he was a relentless perfectionist known for his ruthless efficiency. At Sterling Iron Works, his motto was unyielding: if you can't respect the clock, you don't belong here. The corridors buzzed with whispered stories, tales of entire teams dismissed for missing a deadline by mere minutes. For Elliot, punctuality was the bedrock of success. At exactly 9 a.m., Elliot led the weekly staff meeting in the sleek, modern conference room. Senior managers and department heads filled the room, each prepared with their updates. Elliot glanced at his watch and nodded in satisfaction. On the surface, everyone appeared to be on time. Until the door crept open, all heads turned as Jasmine Rivera, a junior marketing associate, slipped into the room. Her face was flushed from the chill of the rain outside, her dark hair damp from the downpour, and she clutched her bag tightly, avoiding Elliot's piercing gaze. Elliot's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Ms. Rivera, care to explain why you're late?" Jasmine froze under the weight of everyone's eyes. I'm so sorry, Mr. Sinclair," she stammered, her voice trembling. "The train was delayed and there was unexpected traffic due to the storm." Elliot raised his hand sharply, silencing her protests. "That's all I ever hear," he snapped. "Do you think the train is a valid excuse for disrespecting the time of this company?" Jasmine's cheeks burned with embarrassment. She wanted desperately to explain further, to mention the long, agonizing night she'd spent at the hospital, tending to a critical emergency involving a young child, but Elliot would hear none of it. "I'll deal with you later," he declared curtly. "Take a seat and do not disrupt the meeting again." Though the meeting continued, Jasmine's heart pounded as she struggled to focus on the updates. Elliot's harsh words echoed in her mind, making it nearly impossible to concentrate. When the meeting ended, Elliot lingered. Instead of departing immediately, he turned to Jasmine, who was nervously gathering her belongings. "Miss Rivera, my office now," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. With trembling hands, she followed him through the polished corridors to his spacious corner office. A room as cold and immaculate as Elliot himself, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline, shrouded by a steady drizzle. Elliot sat behind his sleek mahogany desk and gestured for Jasmine to stand before him. "This is the third time this month you've been late," he began, his icy blue eyes locking onto hers. "Do you understand what that says about you as an employee? It says you're unreliable, and in my company, I cannot tolerate unreliability." Jasmine's voice wavered as she pleaded softly. "Mr. Sinclair, I understand, but please, I'm doing my best. Last night I was at the hospital. Someone had a terrible accident. Elliot cut her off sharply. "No more sob stories," he said coldly. "This is a professional environment. If you can't separate your personal issues from your work, then you don't belong here." Desperation clawed at Jasmine's throat as she pleaded, "Please, I really need this job. I'm the only one taking care of my little daughter, and I can't afford to lose this." Elliot leaned back in his chair, his face hard and unyielding. "If you needed this job so badly, you should have planned better before being late. I have no choice but to let you go." Jasmine's breath hitched in disbelief. "What?" "Please, sir, give me one more chance," she whispered urgently. Elliot raised his hand, his tone final. "This conversation is over. Go to Human Resources, they will handle the paperwork." Jasmine stumbled from his office, tears welling in her eyes as she made her way to HR. The walk felt like a death march. Her colleagues avoided her gaze, their faces etched with pity and discomfort. When she reached the HR department, she was greeted by Candice Jordan, a middle-aged woman whose sympathetic yet firm demeanor offered little consolation. "Miss Rivera," Candice said gently, "Mr. Sinclair has informed me of what happened. I'm sorry, but we must process your termination." Jasmine's hands shook as she was handed a stack of documents. "This is your official termination notice. Please sign here and here. You will receive your final paycheck within the week." The reality struck her like a cold wave. She signed the papers mechanically, her vision blurring as she whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was barely audible, and as she left HR clutching the termination notice, a tumultuous mix of anger, humiliation, and despair threatened to overwhelm her. How had her life come to this? She had worked so hard, juggling countless responsibilities, and yet now it seemed that nothing mattered. For weeks, Jasmine struggled to find another job. Bills piled up and her daughter's medical expenses drained what little savings she had. Desperation led her to take on odd jobs, babysitting, tutoring, even delivering groceries, just enough to scrape by. One lonely evening, in the cramped quiet of her small apartment, she scrolled through job listings on her phone, her heart heavy with worry. A knock at the door startled her. It was her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, who looked concerned. "Emma, I'm so sorry to trouble you, but my granddaughter Lucy has been sick and I can't leave her alone. Could you watch her for a couple of hours?" Grateful for the extra income and the chance to escape her troubles even for a moment, Jasmine, Genier now, going by the name Emma in this new chapter of her life, agreed. That evening, as she cared for Lucy, a cheerful 8-year-old who instantly warmed to Emma's gentle nature, they played games and laughed together. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt a glimmer of joy, a small spark of hope amidst the darkness. Meanwhile, back at Sterling Iron Works, Elliot Sinclair, a man renowned for his cold demeanor and ruthless decisions, believed that his day could not get any worse, but fate, as it often does, had a cruel twist in store. Later that evening, after returning to his mansion, Elliot stormed into the opulent living room with his briefcase clutched tightly. The weight of the day pressed on him, and all he craved was a moment of peace. Then his eyes fell upon his daughter, Ivy, sitting quietly on the couch. Her arm was wrapped in a bandage, and a small bruise marred her forehead. "Ivy," Elliot's voice cracked as he rushed to her side. "What happened? Are you okay?" Ivy looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and exhaustion. "Dad, I'm fine. It was just a car accident on the way home," she murmured. Elliot's heart skipped a beat. "An accident? Why didn't you call me?" Ivy sighed, her voice laden with frustration. "I tried, Dad. I called multiple times, but you didn't answer. I figured you were busy, as always." Elliot's chest tightened with guilt as he recalled the relentless ringing of his phone that he had ignored during his earlier confrontation with Emma. He sat beside Ivy, his hands trembling as he reached for hers. "Tell me everything. Are you hurt? What happened?" Ivy offered a faint smile. "It wasn't too bad. The car spun out of control and I thought it was over for a moment. Then, after a pause filled with palpable emotion, she added, and then a girl pulled me from the wreckage. She didn't hesitate, even though the car was leaking fuel. She got me to the hospital and stayed with me until I was stable." Elliot's heart pounded as he whispered, "Did you get her name? I need to thank her." Ivy hesitated before replying, "I didn't ask her, but there was a name tag. It said Emma Reed." Elliot froze. Emma Reed, the very same Emma he had fired earlier that morning, the one he had been so harsh with, was the one who had saved his daughter's life. The realization struck him like a thunderclap. Guilt and regret flooded him. He had been so callous, so blinded by his own rigid expectations that he had failed to see the sacrifice of a woman who had given everything to help a child in need. Overwhelmed by the crushing weight of his error, Elliot's mind reeled. How could he have been so blind? Determined to make things right, he began an exhaustive search for Emma. He first called the hospital, only to learn that no details were available. Next, he contacted Human Resources, but they explained that Emma had already left the company. Her termination was final. Frustration mounted with every dead-end call and unanswered email. As the night deepened, Elliot's search felt like chasing a phantom. Just when despair threatened to overtake him, he caught a glimpse of a familiar figure through the rain-streaked streetlights, a figure standing alone in front of a modest apartment building on the city's outskirts. There, drenched by the steady rain, stood Emma. Her posture was forlorn, her eyes downcast, as if she were trying to vanish into the shadows. Elliot's heart pounded as he parked his car hurriedly and rushed toward her. His footsteps echoed on the wet pavement as he drew near. "Emma!" he called softly, his voice laden with guilt and urgency. Startled, Emma turned, her eyes wide with both surprise and guarded apprehension. "Mr. Sinclair?" she asked cautiously, her voice trembling slightly. Elliot took a deep breath, his own eyes glistening with unshed remorse. "Please, call me Elliot. I need to apologize. I was harsh, and I'm sorry for everything I said, for how I treated you." Emma's expression wavered between defiance and vulnerability. "I'm not sure your apology matters anymore," she said quietly, her voice tinged with pain. "It's not just about what you said. It's about how you dismissed me, how you treated people like me as if we were disposable." Elliot's heart ached. "Please, Emma," he pleaded, "give me a chance to make it right. I know I can't change the past, but I want to help you, to support you. I need you to know that I realized, all too late, that you saved my daughter's life. He stopped as Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Elliot," she whispered, "but I don't know if I can forgive you so easily." The words, raw and laden with hurt, broke through his defenses. "I understand," he said, voice low and sincere. "But please, let me prove to you that I can be better, that I can do right by you and my daughter." After a long, heavy silence, Emma's gaze softened just a fraction. "I don't know what to say," she murmured, "but I'm willing to listen." In the following days, Elliot devoted every waking moment to finding a way to make amends. He reached out to old colleagues, scoured records for any clue as to where Emma might be, and even visited several of the small coffee shops and bookshops where she had once mentioned working in passing. Finally, after what felt like an endless search, he received a call from a local community center that Emma had recently helped establish. The center, dedicated to providing childcare and educational programs for struggling families, was a project born from Emma's desire to rebuild her life after the hardships of losing her job. Elliot's heart pounded as he arranged to visit the center. On the day of the opening ceremony, Elliot arrived at the modest building in a neighborhood that had seen better days, its walls adorned with bright murals and its entrance bustling with hopeful families. As he approached, he saw Emma standing at the door, her posture strong despite the evident hardships in her eyes. When she caught sight of him, a mixture of surprise and guarded relief crossed her face. "I'm glad you came," she said softly, her voice steady yet tinged with lingering uncertainty. "Your note, it meant something to me." Elliot's eyes widened. He had left her a small handwritten note the previous night, a brief message of empathy and encouragement, not knowing it would set in motion a chain of events far beyond his expectations. "I'm glad it reached you," he replied, his voice choked with emotion. "I've thought about you every day since that night." Their conversation was quiet and unhurried, punctuated by sincere apologies, shared regrets, and tentative plans for the future. Elliot explained how he had come to realize the error of his ways, how his empire, built on steel and profit, seemed hollow in comparison to the simple, profound impact of a single act of kindness. Emma listened intently, her expression gradually shifting from guarded to reflective. "I never wanted recognition," she said. "I only ever wanted to help, to give my daughter a chance at a better life, and to remind others that they are not alone in their struggles." Her words, filled with quiet determination and gentle sorrow, resonated deeply with Elliot, who felt a fierce need to repay her not just with words, but with actions. A few days later, in a move that would begin to mend the fractures of their past, Elliot invited Emma back to Ironclad Industries, not as an employee but as a consultant to help him transform the culture of his company, a company that had once been synonymous with ruthlessness and inflexible discipline. When Emma walked through the glass doors of the towering office building, she felt a strange mix of apprehension and cautious hope. Elliot met her in the lobby, his demeanor humble and contrite. "I want to thank you for giving me a chance to make things right," he said softly. "And I want you to know that you've earned a place here, not because of your past or because of any debt I owe you, but because of the strength and kindness you've always shown." In the weeks that followed, Elliot worked closely with Emma as she helped him redesign company policies, instilling a culture of empathy and flexibility that prioritized the well-being of every employee. Slowly, the cold, oppressive atmosphere of Ironclad Industries began to thaw, replaced by a newfound warmth and understanding that rippled through every department. For Emma, the changes were transformative. Though the scars of her dismissal still lingered, she discovered that her voice, once silenced by harsh words and missed opportunities, now carried power. With newfound purpose, she began to mentor other employees, offering guidance and support to those who struggled to balance personal hardships with professional responsibilities. Her own experiences had taught her that even the smallest act of compassion could make all the difference. "You don't have to be perfect to be valued," she would say quietly to her mentees. "Just honest, just kind, and willing to keep trying even when it feels like you're alone." As time went on, the story of Elliot Sinclair and Emma Reed's reconciliation spread quietly throughout the company and eventually reached the public. Headlines in local newspapers and whispers on social media recounted how a harsh decision had been overturned by a single act of selflessness, a story of redemption and change that resonated with people from all walks of life. Even former colleagues of Elliot, who had once admired his iron-fisted methods, began to see him in a new light. A leader who had learned that true success was measured not by profits alone, but by the lives he touched and the opportunities he helped create. One crisp winter afternoon, as the city of Pittsburgh lay shrouded in a gentle snowfall and streetlights cast long, hopeful shadows on the sidewalks, Elliot and Emma attended a small community celebration held at a local cultural center. In that warmly lit venue, where the murmurs of heartfelt conversations mingled with the clinking of simple porcelain, Elliot took a moment to address the gathered crowd. "There was a time when I believed that my worth was defined solely by my company's success," he began, his voice filled with both remorse and determination. "But I now know that the most enduring legacy is built on compassion, honesty, and the willingness to be vulnerable. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, creates a ripple that can change the world." Emma, standing proudly beside him, added softly, "Let our journey remind us that we are all more than the labels society places on us. True strength lies in our ability to overcome our hardships and to help one another rise above them." Their words, simple yet powerful, were met with a warm round of applause that filled the room with a shared sense of hope and renewal. After the celebration, as the community center slowly emptied and the quiet hum of the city resumed outside, Elliot and Emma returned to a modest home they had come to share. A sanctuary that, though unpretentious, brimmed with warmth, love, and the promise of new beginnings. There, in the soft glow of a single table lamp, Elliot sat at a worn desk and began to write a letter, a personal manifesto of transformation that captured the essence of his journey. "For too long, I measured my worth in terms of profits and deadlines," he wrote, carefully in deliberate script. "But I have learned that true richness is found in the love we give, the honesty we live by, and the positive change we inspire in others. Today, I commit myself to a future defined not by ruthlessness, but by compassion, integrity, and the courage to embrace our vulnerabilities." His words, unembellished and sincere, would serve as a beacon for his future endeavors and a reminder that every small act of kindness has the power to spark lasting change. In the months that followed, as the cultural shift at Sterling Ironworks grew more evident and the community around them flourished, Elliot and Emma continued to work tirelessly toward a common vision. A vision in which success was redefined by the strength of character, the depth of empathy, and the resilience of the human spirit. Emma, once dismissed and cast aside, now emerged as a mentor and leader, using her own experience to empower others to rise above their circumstances. Elliot, having learned that even a billionaire could be humbled by the quiet courage of a kind soul, dedicated a significant portion of his resources to support initiatives that provided opportunities for those who had long been forgotten. Their partnership, forged in the fires of regret and redemption, became a testament to the transformative power of love and integrity, a modern parable that would be shared for years to come. One bright summer day, as the Pittsburgh skyline glowed under a clear blue sky and the city thrummed with the vibrancy of life, Elliot and Emma walked hand in hand along a bustling street lined with independent boutiques, cozy cafes, and community art galleries. Amid the sound of friendly chatter, the rhythmic beat of footsteps, and the distant strum of a street performer's guitar, they paused at a small park bench to savor a moment of peace. "I used to think that every problem could be solved by closing a deal or cutting costs," Elliot said quietly, gazing out at the shimmering reflection on a nearby pond. "But now I know that the true solutions lie in our relationships and the kindness we extend to one another." Emma squeezed his hand gently and replied, "We have the power to define our own worth. It isn't in the figures on a balance sheet, it's in the impact we have on the lives around us and in the love we nurture every day." In that unassuming moment, under the gentle glow of the afternoon sun, they both understood that the richest rewards in life were not measured in material gains, but in the authenticity of our hearts and the connections we build. As the years passed, the extraordinary journey of Elliot Sinclair and Emma Reed evolved into a living legacy, a modern legend of transformation and hope that touched the lives of countless individuals. Their philanthropic initiatives expanded to encompass scholarship programs, community outreach projects, and mentorship networks that empowered young leaders to forge their own paths. Their story, once marred by harsh judgments and painful mistakes, was now celebrated in boardrooms, classrooms, and community centers as a shining example of ethical leadership and the power of compassion. Real success, Elliot would often say, is not found in the numbers we amass, but in the lives we change and the love we share. Emma would add softly, every act of kindness, every honest word, builds a future that transcends the superficial definitions of wealth. Despite the challenges and occasional setbacks, the bond between Elliot and Emma only grew stronger. Late at night, when the rest of the world fell silent, they would sit together in the modest comfort of their shared home, a place filled with faded photographs, handwritten letters, and the quiet promise of a better tomorrow, and reflect on how far they had come. I never imagined that a single, unexpected moment in a quiet diner could change everything, Elliot would say, his voice tinged with awe, and I never imagined that I'd find redemption and true purpose in the kindness of someone like you. Emma, her eyes soft with both gratitude and determination, would reply, you gave me the strength to see that I am more than my circumstances, and together we can build a legacy that honors the true worth of every human being. In time, the tale of Elliot Sinclair and Emma Reed became more than just a story of personal redemption. It became a symbol of hope for a generation hungry for change. Their names were etched in the memories of those they helped, and their journey was recounted in local newspapers, on community blogs, and even in academic lectures as a testament to the power of vulnerability and the courage to do what is right. Public opinion shifted as people began to recognize that the truest measure of success was not in the material riches one accumulated, but in the love one shared and the positive impact one had on the world. Young entrepreneurs, community activists, and even established business leaders began to embrace a new definition of success, one rooted in ethical practices, genuine connection, and the relentless pursuit of a better future for all. One particularly memorable winter, as the city of Pittsburgh was softly cloaked in a blanket of snow and the cold light of street lamps danced on frost-covered sidewalks, Elliot and Emma attended a small, intimate charity dinner at a renovated community center in a historic neighborhood. In that quietly lit hall, with its exposed brick walls and simple wooden tables, Elliot stepped forward and spoke with a sincerity that resonated with every person present. There was a time when I measured my worth by the bottom line, he confessed, his voice heavy with the lessons of a harsh past. But I have come to learn that the most enduring measure of our success is found in the lives we touch, the hope we inspire, and the legacy we create through our actions. Emma, standing beside him, added, our journey is proof that every small act of kindness can build a bridge from despair to possibility. Let us all choose to live with integrity and to see the beauty in every person's story. The room, filled with nodding heads and quiet applause, bore witness to a new understanding of what it meant to be truly rich. In the quiet moments that followed that transformative evening, as the community center slowly emptied and the soft echoes of supportive voices lingered in the air, Elliot and Emma returned to their modest home, a sanctuary that, while unassuming, overflowed with love, resilience, and hope for the future. There, beneath the gentle glow of a single lamp, Elliot sat at a worn desk and composed a letter, a personal manifesto of transformation that captured the essence of his journey. For too long, I measured my success by the deals I closed and the profits I accumulated, he wrote, in careful, deliberate script. But I now understand that true wealth is not found in dollars. It is found in the compassion we extend, the honesty we uphold, and the lives we change. Today, I choose to invest in a future defined by love and integrity. His words, raw and unadorned, became a guiding light for his renewed purpose and a reminder that every act of kindness creates ripples that can transform the world. Over the following years, as their philanthropic endeavors flourished and their influence spread across communities far beyond Pittsburgh, the extraordinary journey of Elliot Sinclair and Emma Reed stood as a modern parable, a living testament to the power of vulnerability, the strength of compassion, and the enduring belief that true success is measured by the love we share and the positive change we bring about. Their story inspired local schools to establish scholarship funds, community centers to offer support to those in need, and countless young people to believe that no matter where they started, they could define their own worth through honesty, perseverance, and kindness. On one bright summer afternoon, as the Minneapolis-Pittsburgh corridor thrummed with the energy of possibility and the fading warmth of the day painted the skyline in hues of gold and rose, Elliot and Emma strolled together along a bustling street lined with independent cafes and vibrant art galleries. Amid the symphony of urban life, the rhythmic tapping of footsteps, the cheerful banter of passers-by, and the gentle melody of a street performer's guitar, they paused at a small park bench to savor a quiet moment. "I used to believe that success was solely the domain of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals," Elliot mused softly as he gazed at the shimmering pond in the park. "But I've come to learn that the true measure of our lives is in the connections we forge and the love we share." Emma squeezed his hand gently, her eyes alight with quiet conviction, and replied, "We have the power to define our own path, a path where our worth is measured not by what we accumulate, but by the compassion we show and the lives we uplift." In that unassuming moment, as the city around them buzzed with everyday life, they both realized that the richest rewards in life were found in the authenticity of the human spirit. As public recognition of their journey grew, local newspapers and national media began to celebrate the inspiring transformation of a once distant, calculating billionaire and the humble woman who had reclaimed her identity from a life of hardship. Their story, initially whispered about in hushed tones and dismissed as an improbable romance, blossomed into a symbol of hope and redemption, a testament to the idea that even the smallest acts of kindness can pave the way for monumental change. True success, Elliot would say in interviews, is not measured by the profit margins of our businesses, but by the lives we touch and the hearts we mend along the way. Emma would add softly, "Every person has the power to rise above their circumstances. Our worth is defined by our choices, by our compassion, and by our willingness to stand by our true selves." Despite the accolades and the mounting praise, Elliot and Emma remained deeply committed to the intimate values that had drawn them together. In the quiet hours of early morning and late at night, when the hustle of corporate life and the clamor of public expectations faded into the background, they would retreat to their modest home, a sanctuary adorned with cherished photographs, handwritten letters, and the gentle warmth of shared memories. On many such nights, as rain pattered softly against the window and the city's distant hum lulled them into introspection, Elliot would pick up his pen and write a letter to himself, a record of his transformation, a promise that the true measure of success lies in the kindness we extend and the love we share. For too long, he would write in careful, deliberate script, "I allowed the pursuit of profit to define me, but now I know that the richest life is one built on compassion, integrity, and the courage to be vulnerable." His words, plain yet profound, became a mantra, a guiding light for all his future endeavors. Emma too embraced her role as a mentor and advocate. No longer content to remain invisible in a world obsessed with material gain, she dedicated herself to uplifting those who, like her, had once felt forsaken. Through volunteering at local shelters, speaking at community centers, and offering personal guidance to struggling single mothers, she spread a message of hope and resilience. "I left behind a life defined by numbers," she would say softly in interviews, "so that I could discover the true meaning of worth and help others see that they are so much more than their circumstances." Her gentle, unwavering determination ignited a movement, a call to redefine success in terms of character and kindness rather than cold calculations. In the years that followed, the extraordinary journey of Elliot Sinclair and Emma Reed evolved into a legacy that touched the lives of countless individuals. Their philanthropic initiatives grew exponentially, providing scholarships for underprivileged students, establishing community centers that offered educational programs and career training, and mentoring young entrepreneurs to lead with empathy and ethical purpose. Public lectures, televised interviews, and academic seminars featured their story as a modern parable, a timeless reminder that true wealth is measured not in dollars, but in the depth of our compassion and the integrity with which we live. One particularly memorable winter evening, As the city of Pittsburgh glowed softly under a blanket of snow and street lamps cast long, gentle shadows, Elliot and Emma attended a small fundraising dinner at a renovated community center in one of the city's historic neighborhoods. In that intimate setting, surrounded by people united by a shared vision of hope, Elliot stepped up to address the gathered crowd with heartfelt candor. "There was a time when I believed that every problem could be solved by the bottom line," he began, his voice trembling with the raw honesty of his transformation. "But I have learned that the most enduring solutions are born of genuine human connection, of the courage to show kindness when it is most needed." Emma, standing quietly beside him, added, "Our journey is a testament to the fact that the choices we make, choices rooted in love and authenticity, define our legacy far more than any profit margin ever could." The audience's applause was soft yet resolute, a collective affirmation of a new way of measuring success. In the quiet that followed, as the community center emptied and the gentle hum of supportive voices lingered in the air, Elliot and Emma returned to their modest home, a sanctuary that, though simple, overflowed with warmth, cherished memories, and the promise of a future built on genuine connection. There, beneath the soft glow of a single lamp, Elliot sat at a weathered desk and began to write a letter, a personal manifesto that captured the essence of his metamorphosis. "For far too long, I measured my worth by the numbers in my bank account and the accolades on my wall," he wrote in deliberate, heartfelt script. "But I have come to understand that true richness is found in the love we give, the honesty we live by, and the lives we touch along the way. Today, I choose to invest in a future defined not by cold calculations, but by compassion and integrity." His words, raw and unadorned, became a beacon, a reminder that every small act of kindness has the power to create ripples that transform lives. Over time, the extraordinary love story of Elliot Sinclair and Emma Reed spread far beyond the confines of their own world. Their names became synonymous with a new era of ethical leadership, a time when success was redefined not by the wealth one accumulated, but by the character one demonstrated and the lives one improved. Local newspapers chronicled their journey, and social media buzzed with hashtags celebrating their transformation. Universities invited them to share their insights on the true meaning of success, and community centers used their story as a model for nurturing resilience and compassion. "Real success," Elliot would say in interviews, "is not measured by the deals we close, but by the hope we inspire and the love we share. It is built on the foundation of integrity, not merely on numbers." Emma would add softly, "When we choose to live authentically, we empower not only ourselves but also those around us to see their own worth." Despite occasional setbacks, lingering doubts, and the occasional whisper of old rivalries, Elliot and Emma remained steadfast in their commitment to their shared vision. Late at night, when the rest of the world fell silent, they would sit together on the worn sofa of their modest home, reminiscing about that rainy night at the diner that had set their fates in motion. "I still remember the way you looked at me, Emma," Elliot would say, his voice thick with emotion, "as if you saw right through the defenses I had built around my heart, and in that moment, I knew I had to change." Emma would squeeze his hand gently, her eyes reflecting both joy and lingering pain, and reply, "You gave me the strength to believe in myself when I felt invisible." Our past does not define us. It guides us toward a brighter future. Their shared reflections became a quiet promise, a vow to continue living a life defined by honesty, compassion, and the relentless courage to be true to themselves. In the end, the extraordinary journey of Elliot Sinclair and Emma Reed was not just a personal transformation, it became a modern parable, a story told in boardrooms, classrooms, and community centers across the nation. It was a reminder that even in the face of harsh judgment and relentless adversity, the human spirit has the power to triumph through love and authenticity. Their legacy, forged in the quiet moments of vulnerability and reinforced by countless acts of kindness, showed that true success is measured not by material gain, but by the positive impact we have on the lives of others. And so, as the neon lights of a rainy Seattle evening shimmered on the pavement and the world continued to turn, Elliot and Emma walked hand in hand toward a future where every small act of kindness carried the potential to change everything, transforming not only their own lives, but also the hearts of those they touched along the way.